And you can tell everybody this is your song. It may be quite simple, but now that it's done, I hope you don't mind. I hope you don't mind that I put down in the words how wonderful life is that you're in the world. Oh, Scooby-Doo. Hey, what do you say? What do you know? Tip the veal, try the waitress. How's tricks? How's the kids? Some weather we're having. Welcome to not the softest part of the ring, not the snug part of the ring, not the stiff part of the ring, not the part that's stiff but in safe places. No, we're talking about the hardest part of the ring, and the Raw Hulu edition, again, because I'm going to miss matches. I'm going to miss skits that someone couldn't cram or didn't think were important. Hulu edition with limited commercial interruptions, $7.99 a month. Hulu, it's TV in the palm of your hands. Exclusive programming of Raw, September. Oh Jesus, balls almighty! December 7th, the Pearl Harbor edition of Monday Night Raw. It wasn't really the Pearl Harbor edition, but we did open with Hulk Hogan slamming Andre the Giant. After that, we did another tribute to Pat Patterson, where everybody comes out and looks somber. I'm only making fun of this because I don't like feelings. I don't like emotions. Like I felt them all. You know what I mean? Like we've done this. Like now they're no good. So I don't really need them. One thing I noticed about the Patterson the tribute where we're all hands folded up the whole roster on a stage is the retribution. Thank God they put retribution in the back. Because grieving retribution masks don't they look kind of silly, but retribution were I think the only people up there in masks. Okay, this was a very non-socially distanced Pat Patterson tribute, and when you think of Pat Patterson you think hip-hop, so we go right to the opening. And Randy Orton, well, I guess you can't grieve forever, as they say, because he comes out and then after he enters, sometimes I try to imagine this show, even though anyone listening to this definitely watches, I try to imagine someone only getting the Raw results from this show that I'm doing right now, the hardest part of the ring. I'm Bob Hansen. Uh, because it sounds so much more stupid when you summarize it. Randy Orton shows up, and right as he gets to the ring, because he had to go back from the grieving Pat Patterson thing backstage and then out again, he gets to the ring, and before he says anything, we do a recap video that has a recap in it. It's a recap and a recap. Remember Dawn of Justice, one of the really spooky, extra dark, edgy, violent Zack Snyder DC movies that you saw once? Like Batman has a dream, and there's a dream inside a dream where he's in a desert and he's shooting people, and in a desert shooting people, he has another dream of the Flash in another movie they're probably not going to make coming out of his computer and saying he went back too far or something like that. Or was that? Yeah, that was Dawn of Justice, I think. Yeah, that's what they did. They did that, and they've been doing that a lot lately because there's no Alexa Bliss on this show. Um, I don't know what's up with that. If they're just saving her, or trying to like not mention her so much, and then she'll come out at the pay per view, which I don't think is this Sunday. It can't be. We just had War Games. Whatever. It's later in the month. Anyway, the Funhouse interrupts Bray, and Bray does. It sucks because he's one of my favorite guys, but it's a really long game show parody thing. It's just long. And why would Orton stand there forever? Orton did a lot of stuff on this show that Randy Orton wouldn't do, and it kind of irked me a little bit. But anyway, it's a mock game show thing, and eventually Bray takes off his fake wig and he accepts Randy Orton's challenge to wrestle Bray Wyatt. I love how Bray Wyatt has become the guy that you fight before the Fiend, like he's his own henchman. He's like it's like beating up Virgil before the $1 Million Man. Hold on, I'm old. It's like beating up Orlando Jordan before you get to JBL. I'm still really old. Oh God, the Edge heads before you get to Edge. Do you understand yet? It's beating up those guys. The two guys that Jinder Mahal. Narinder Singh is a guy I actually know. Jesus Christ, I'm an asshole. The Jinder Mahal had those two guys, the Singh brothers. Anyway, well, they're singing a different tune right now, I guess. So we set up this match, and then we have Asuka versus Shayna is going to happen. And Nia hypes up Shayna in a weird way. So as Shayna said this incredibly goofy line, I hope someone wrote for her because there's no way she talks like that. We're gonna put her front where her back is and her back where her front is. And Naya, god damn it, I'm trying. I have to be fair to Naya. She made me laugh, and it's never happened before, but it was a good line. She says, "So she'll have boobs on her back," and you never hear the word boobs on Raw. It's been 20 years. So I don't know. Naya and Lana do like a push off thing while there's a match going on. So there's no push off. That's what I wrote. Okay, my bad. So Shayna and Asuka are having a good like grounded wrestling match and building up to somewhere. So Nia does the thing where she picks up Lana and the old power slam, the British bulldog. I don't give a frog's fat ass about Shawn Michaels. And she's gonna like post Lana, but Lana slips behind her and Nia runs into the post. The thing is, I think Lana either forgot or just didn't do like the pushing part where you fall back behind a person who's power slamming you. You slip back and you push them on the back. It didn't look to me like she did that, or maybe she did it very lightly. But so it just looked like Nia let go of her and ran face first into a post, which is kind of silly. There was a roll up, of course. And Asuka's very colorful, so it was like a fruit roll up. 1, 2, 3. She defeats Shayna. 48 stars. This match gets. And that's you're going to see a lot more of these four later on in the Hulu edition of the Pearl Harbor episode of Monday Night Raw. And they do the Miz superstar facts. They remind us we're supposed to care about the Miz because he's got a show on. God, it's unwatchable. The reality show on USA with his wife, who's still very hot. There's a package about the Miz, Morrison, AJ, Drew thing with the pie. So it's another package about stuff you already saw on Raw. Now Keith Lee comes up to Sheamus to accuse him a second time of theoretically turning on his tag partner, which he didn't yet. They're making Keith Lee like the girlfriend who's mad about you because you cheated in a dream she had. Like that's what Keith Lee they turned. But I think the reason is they probably Keith Lee is going to be the guy Sheamus wrestles as he's about to wrestle Drew. Which, as much as I love Keith Lee, it's actually not a bad spot. Even though I think a lot of them, there's a lot worse they could do with him. So it's still he's in that upper mix, which is still good. So then we show Baby Rue, Roux. Of course, they have a hipster name that you can't pronounce. The kid's gonna have trouble learning. Um, so Becky and Seth Rollins have a baby. I don't know if that was their shoot baby or a working baby in the photo. Yeah, you really can't tell, but I don't know. I still think it's all the work. We're gonna find out she wasn't pregnant. Everything's work. Congratulations to Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. I'm being goofy. There's Miz TV, of course. We have to do this every week. Gosh. And then AJ as the guest, and the almost guy almost does something, but then he doesn't. LOL, Waka Waka. Where's the beef? Airline food sucks. OJ stabbed people. They're fucking jokes. Sheamus and Drew both interrupt, and Drew talks about the Miz's testicles. He says he doesn't have any balls, and then he says he does have balls, but they're in Maurice's purse, which is kind of sexist to assume she carries a purse around, but I guess. And then Drew, I love this because it broke part of the Blunder Dome. Drew threw the briefcase and it took out one of the panels of the thing there. And then we recap the fun house or something. I don't know. They show us what they showed. There's a few Pat Patterson tributes throughout this bad boy. One of them is coming up next. Not too much to say there. They're really well done, and it's a bummer. So, in case you were having fun, remember, he said, when you think Pat Patterson, think hip hop. Drew McIntyre comes out and summons the rest of the Thundercats with his sword. And then what did I write down here? I can't read my own handwriting, but I hope it wasn't important. Anyway. Oh, yeah, there's a tribute to the troops. I got mad at the company again. I Hey, listen, I love that they do the tribute to the troops every year. I think that's great. There's a hypocrisy of, hey, remember how good we are? Let's pat ourselves on the back, and the way they treat their wrestlers, their WWE superstars, especially as of late with the crazy rules and basically the stealing of their money, and in my opinion, and everything else, and the firing of Zelina Vega. Uh, yeah, I'm kind of like, congratulations and fuck you is where I stand. I'm getting a little mad at the company, but I think this helps. I think the hardest part of the ring is helping me a little bit. It leaves me at a little bit of a handicap, but I'm trying to enjoy it. But speaking of handicaps, terrible segue. The next match, Sheamus and Drew versus AJ Miz Morrison. I don't like to usually just talk about high spots. You know, the story is here Sheamus was in the ring for way more. He took more of the beating and he gave more of the beating. And he was a lot more aggressive. They were hinting at a more aggressive Sheamus because remember, he was a good guy for 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. So now he's aggressive and mean, which he was the week before. He was a good guy for 2.5 minutes. But he's clubbing Miz and you can hear it. And I always enjoy that. And so they're showing that his temper's getting to him a little bit. And there was a little bit of a spat with him and Drew, but right before they argue any further, they both catch Morrison from a dive over the top, and then they do a double fall away, and Morrison flies all over the place. So that was good. And then we do an errant bro kick on Drew. See, I was wrong. I love being wrong. The best part of watching wrestling for me, especially on Raw, is being wrong. And I thought it was going to be Drew was going to hit Sheamus by accident with at some point. It doesn't have to be his finish. It's always so contrived. It could just be a clothesline or a forearm or something. And then Sheamus would be like, "What the hell?" And Drew's like, "It's an accident." Sheamus about, "I was right all along." And but actually, no, this was Sheamus clearly still missing a brogue on Morrison and hitting Drew. I think he was Morrison. Who cares? And then Sheamus loses the match. So AJ pins Sheamus with the big forearm. 502 stars this match gets. So we're gonna go back to Sheamus and Drew in a bit, but Alana is hyping up Nia Jax with Asuka. Asuka's helping her out, so they set up Alana versus Nia Jax next week. And I'm still standing my ground on this. This one I'm not gonna. I won't admit being wrong on this. The only way to make Lana redeemable and make all this pay off, Lana has to beat Nia 1, 2, 3, clean in the middle with no screwing around. It won't happen. But Vince likes blondes, and Nia's the Rock's cousin. So this is the true irresistible force meeting the immovable object. What will happen? Asuka hypes up Lana and makes her repeat positive things. Asuka, no green makeup, I guess. Well, that makes sense though, because her match is over. It actually drives me nuts when they just show up randomly in full gear and everything else. Like, why would they always wear that? So it made sense. Um, then Lana turns around and Nia is staring at her, and everyone has a good time. Then we go to Charlie Caruso, who's talking to Sheamus and Drew, and they argue. And right as they're about to come to blows, we go to break. We come back from break, and Drew and Sheamus are beating the shit out of each other, but some guy named Pat Buck, who they have yet to tell us why we're supposed to care who he is, the Drew and Sheamus stop and kind of wink at each other and just toss this Pat Buck guy through a table, which I believe Nia got kayfabe suspended for, so that'll be interesting. Because in one day, Drew's breaking stuff and breaking Pat Buck. Uh, Orton is in the dressing room, and the stupid rabbit puppet knocks on a door, and Orton just stands there and lets whoever has their hand up the puppet's ass stick it through the door. Why wouldn't he kick the door and break their hand or open it to beat them up? Who is behind? Is Bray the one with the puppet? Is it Alexa? Who? I don't know. Why would Orton? This is bothering me. Why would Orton stand there for 1 second and deal with that stupid puppet? Anybody else? All right. It made no sense to me. So the main event is Orton wrestles Bray. Bray has to wrestle in a sweater. Jesus, he is sweating. They did one of the. This is hardly the worst breakage of kayfabe that's ever happened in WWE. We'll just stick with that universe for now. But it was one of the oddest ones because how would he know? This is so. Bray Wyatt sent us to break. He took the headset after brawling with Orton on the outside. He knocks Orton to the side or over the barricade or something like that. And then he takes the head, says, "Yowie wowie," is this thing, thing he says, we'll be right back after this break. And it's the only time any of the announcers have ever told us we're going to break in like years. But he's not an announcer, but it was great. I let it. I know I'm being a hypocrite. I forgive Bray with a lot of this stuff. I think you can let it go if only one guy does it. It's kind of an Undertaker rule, an Undertaker light rule. Speaking of lights, lights out. I'm surprised they haven't done this yet, but I guess we played that card. Lights out. Bray is gone. Fiend is in his place. Mandible Claw. I think it was a DQ finish. It was a non-finish. It was. I don't know what the finish actually was. I'm going to give it 78 stars. Um, I do the absurd number of stars because I think the star thing is really stupid, and it's badly educated a lot of fans on how to judge matches and their enjoyment of them. So that's why I give an absurd number with no rhyme or reason to make that. It's me saying fuck you to the stars without doing a big boring rant about it. They already have a guy who does that. He's busy though. Lights out. So Bray turns into the Fiend, and okie dokie. I mean, obviously this is an edit where time went by. I'm sure, but in between the two things, because we had the super close up of Orton and all red lights on the ring. Uh, I mean, okay. See, it's cheat to me because you couldn't do it live. If you couldn't do it live, then it wasn't really advertised as a theatric match or a cinematic, and it wasn't a cinematic match until that point. But is it also cinematic the second Bray Wyatt knows when the commercial break is coming? I don't know what happened here. I don't like shitting on Bray stuff, and I don't want to be a hypocrite either. So this was, I don't know, flying a little close to the sun there, kids. But what can I say? I don't matter anymore. It's over for me. I don't even remember. I was when I was a failed indie wrestler. We weren't even taking bumps on the apron, which, if you didn't know, it's the hardest part of the ring.